So, do you ever find yourself saying, I am just a stay-at-home mom, or I am just a mom, or I am just a divorced person, or I am just a single person? So I'm reading right now in the book of Amos, and I was really struck by something when I was reading Amos 1, kind of looking at who was Amos. And Amos was a shepherd. He was a keeper of sheep, but he also was a fig picker, the fruit picker. And he came from a small town called Tekoa. And it was really a no-name place. It was a very small place. It was kind of like, he was from Hickville, basically. And God called Amos from this small town, who had no prophetical training. He was not of the sons of the prophets. He was called to be a prophet to the people of Israel. And he was in Judah. Tekoa was in Judah. So he was called from the land of Judah to go into Israel and prophesy to the people of Israel. So as I'm studying this minor prophet with some friends, I think a lot of times we avoid this part of the Old Testament because it's very intimidating or we don't understand it, and so we just skip over it. But there's so much here in this tiny book, and so much for us to learn about Israel's history, about God, and how he has compassion and patience, and also how he must punish sin. And so Amos's job, he came from Podunkville to Israel to warn them of judgment. Can you imagine how he might have been received as a no-name prophet who just comes out of nowhere, basically telling them what's going to happen if they don't straighten up? And so as I'm reading through this, I'm thinking about my life, and I'm thinking about your life. I don't know what circumstances you're in right now. So I don't know what your situation is currently. Maybe you're a mom at home, you're a stay-at-home mom. Maybe you're a working mother. Maybe you're a young woman who is single and who would like to be married. Maybe you're a teenager. Maybe you're a divorced woman. There's so many different scenarios and circumstances. I don't know where you land in that. But I do know this. No matter where you're at, God can use us in our hiddenness to form us and shape us as we're being faithful in those mundane things, picking figs and keeping sheep. God can use us and grow us to then do great things for him. So oftentimes doing great things for God could simply mean that you're being faithful where you're at, being faithful as a mom, being faithful as a single person, being faithful as a divorced person. Whatever your situation is, God can use that. And so there's one point in the book of Amos where Amaziah comes against him and tells him to stop prophesying. We don't want to hear these things that you're saying. And Amos tells him basically who he is. He said, I was no prophet. And he says, nor a prophet's son, but I was a herdsman and a dresser of sycamore figs. He's saying, listen, I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody. I keep sheep and I pick fruit. I'm a nobody. Then he says this, but the Lord took me from following the flock. And the Lord said to me, go prophesy to my people, Israel. Now, therefore, hear the word of the Lord. So Amos is clarifying to him, listen, I'm a nobody. I know this. But God called me. I love that. He took me from following the flock, and he took me from this situation and told me to go do this thing. Now, I'm not saying that God's calling you away from your family, but God can use you right there. So many times I feel like we say, well, I'm just fill in the blank. I am just a stay-at-home mom. I am just a single person. I am just a divorced person. But you're not just that. You are called by God to something. Whether it's right where you're at or it's somewhere in the future God is going to lead you to. And so I was just struck by that when I was thinking of my own life and how Amos was confident that God had called them, even though he had no credentials to show for it. But he was confident in God's calling. And so I'm praying that we would be confident where God has called us right now. So whatever situation you find yourself in, whatever circumstance you're currently in, be confident that God has called you there for a time, for a season, and that he is working. He is working even though you can't see it, even though at times it feels like you're hidden and alone and isolated. He is working. And so don't think of yourself of, I'm just a fill in the blank. You are called by God to be right where you're at for this moment and for a purpose that only He can see and that He will reveal in time. So be confident in that, and I hope this helps encourage you today, whatever situation you find yourself in.